My name is Paul Hebert. I'm on the Wicked Tuna show for 11 years. I own the boat Wicked Pissa, and I came down to Conley GMC.
Paul Hebert was born on February 15, 1965, in Marshfield, Massachusetts, into a large family with a deep love for fishing. From the moment he was born, it was almost like the sea was calling him. His family didn't just fish for fun, they did it to survive and make a living. They weren't just fishermen, they were bluefin tuna fishermen, which is one of the hardest and most respected types of fishing. Bluefin tuna are huge, powerful fish that can sell for thousands of dollars each. For Paul's family, especially his father Donald Hebert, sea wasn't just a job, it was a way of life. Paul grew up in Gloucester, a well-known fishing town, where almost everyone learned to fish as a child. Paul once said that he knew the smell of tuna before he could even swim. That shows just how deeply connected he was to the sea. His father was known to catch over 100 bluefin tuna in a single year, something that very few people could ever do. Donald taught Paul not only how to fish, but how to respect the ocean. He believed no one could beat the ocean, but if you learned to live with it, you could survive and become great. Paul was just 8 years old when he caught his first tuna. It weighed over 100 pounds, and he did it using only a het line, which is a simple fishing line held in the hands with no rod or reel. That moment changed Paul's life forever. It wasn't just about catching a fish, it was a proud moment, like a young warrior passing his first big test. Paul didn't go to fancy schools to learn how to fish. He learned everything by being out on the water, watching his dad, feeling the waves, and learning from experience. Growing up with 6 brothers who were all involved in fishing, Paul stood out because he later brought their traditional ways to modern television. Before he became a TV star, Paul worked as a regular fisherman. He traveled up and down the East Coast, working on many boats from Massachusetts to Florida. Life wasn't easy. He often slept in oily engine rooms, ate cold sandwiches, and spent long hours fighting storms, people, and giant fish. But he never gave up. Paul always believed that hard work would pay off someday. That day finally came in 2012 when Paul joined the reality show Wicked Tuna on National Geographic. The show follows real-life tuna fishermen as they compete to catch the biggest and most valuable fish in the sea. Paul joined as a crew member on the boat, fvtuna.com, which was captained by his good friend Dave Carraro. But Paul had a strong personality and often clashed with others about how to fish or what decisions to make. After the first season, Paul decided to leave the crew and become a captain of his own boat. From season 2 and onward, he commanded several different vessels, including the FV Bounty Hunter, Miss Samska, Kelly Ann, and the most famous one, Wicked Pissa. That boat became a part of Paul's identity on the show, even though he didn't win right away. He quickly became one of the most popular faces on Wicked Tuna. Fans loved him because he was real. He showed real emotions, real stress, and real love for the ocean. In season 5, he came in second place, earning over $100,000. In season 6, he placed second again. It wasn't until season 10 that he finally came in first. That win felt like a reward for all the years of struggle, both on and off the water. Paul was more than just a fisherman to fans, he was the heart of the show. While Paul Hebert was becoming a star on Wicked Tuna, smiling on TV and shouting with joy when he caught giant fish, there was a dark secret he was hiding. Many fans didn't know that while he was filming the show and working full-time on fishing boats, Paul was also receiving money from the government by claiming he was disabled. It all started back in 2009 when Paul was living in Vermont. He applied for Social Security and Medicaid benefits, which are meant for people who are disabled and cannot work. In his application, Paul said that he was unable to do physical work, could not drive long distances, and had no income or property. He told the government that he was completely disabled and living alone. At first, the government denied his application, but at a hearing in 2010, Paul gave what seemed like believable statements, and he was approved to get monthly payments and free health care. Between 2010 and 2013, Paul received over $34,000 from Social Security and more than $9,000 from Medicaid. The problem was that Paul wasn't actually disabled. Not only was he working, but he was working in one of the most physically demanding jobs there is, hauling giant tuna fish in dangerous conditions. He was also being paid to appear on national television. The law says that if you start working or make money, you have to report that to the government when you are getting disability payments. Paul never reported his earnings from fishing or from being on the show. That's where the real trouble began. In April 2012, when Wicked Tuna started airing, people could clearly see Paul on TV doing all the things he said he couldn't do. It didn't take long for investigators to start asking questions. How could a man who claimed to be so sick be out at sea, lifting heavy gear, and operating a boat? In July 2015, Paul was charged by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Vermont. He was accused of 4 federal crimes, including lying to get benefits, hiding income, and making false statements. If found guilty of all the charges, Paul could have faced up to 20 years in prison and a fine of $1 million. The media picked up the story quickly. Government officials gave angry statements, saying Paul had taken money meant for the poor and disabled while appearing healthy and successful on national TV. Many fans felt betrayed. Some called him a fraud and said he had stolen from people who really needed help. But others stood by him, saying he made a mistake and had already paid the money back. Paul first said he was not guilty, but later he made a deal with the government. He pleaded guilty to 2 of the 4 charges. His lawyer explained that most of the fraud happened before he became a TV star and that Paul didn't continue doing it on purpose. On June 8, 2016, Paul was sentenced to 4 years of probation. He didn't have to go to jail, but he had to pay a $5,000 fine and return all the money over $53,000. The judge noted that Paul had already paid the money back before the trial, which helped reduce his sentence. Paul didn't talk to the media after the case. He didn't do interviews or explain his side of the story. During the next season of Wicked Tuna, fans noticed he was shown much less on screen. The reaction among fans was mixed. Some believed Paul should be banned from the show forever. Others forgave him, saying that people make mistakes and he had made things right. One comment on Facebook said, "We all mess up, at least he took responsibility and paid it back. Let the man fish." Paul never responded publicly. He just kept fishing. He didn't try to defend himself or argue with critics. Maybe he felt ashamed. Maybe he just wanted to focus on what he loved. But one thing was clear. The legal case had changed his life. It damaged his reputation, hurt his career, and added a heavy emotional weight to his already tough life. For Paul, the sea had always been his escape. But now even the ocean couldn't wash away the stress and shame of being accused of fraud. Still, Paul returned to the show, season after season, even when fans doubted him. His love for the ocean never stopped, even when everything else seemed to fall apart. After dealing with the stress and pain of the legal case, Paul Hebert was trying to rebuild his life. He kept fishing, continued filming Wicked Tuna, and slowly started to earn back the trust of fans. But just when things seemed like they might get better, tragedy struck again. This time, it was something no amount of money or fame could fix. Paul's father, Paul Hebert, the man who taught him everything about the sea, passed away during the COVID-19 pandemic. It happened between late 2020 and early 2021, a time when the entire world was struggling with sickness, lockdowns, and isolation. Donald died in a nursing home in Massachusetts, and because of strict COVID-19 rules and Paul's filming schedule for Wicked Tuna, Outer Banks, he wasn't able to be there when his father took his final breath. Paul was in another state, out at sea, doing what his father had taught him. When he got the phone call that Donald had died, he collapsed on the deck of his boat. In a rare moment of openness, Paul later spoke to fans on Instagram Live. With tears in his eyes, he shared how painful it was to not be there for his father. "I knew Dad was weak. I called, but no one let me see him. When I got the call that he was gone, I was at sea. I collapsed on the deck. I've never felt the sea so cold." These words touched many fans. They saw the real Paul, not the loud, tough fisherman on TV, but a heartbroken son who had lost his hero. Donald's death didn't just break Paul's heart, it shattered the foundation of his life. This was the man who had given him his love for the ocean, taught him how to fish, and shaped him into the man he became. Losing him was more painful than anything Paul had faced before. For 2 months after his father's passing, Paul disappeared from social media. He didn't post. He didn't reply to messages. Fans began to worry. Some thought he might be sick. Others guessed he was taking time to heal. When Paul finally returned to social media, he didn't post anything about the funeral, didn't write a long message, and didn't share personal thoughts. Instead, he posted just one picture, a black and white photo of the ocean, taken at dawn. The sea was calm, and the sky was beginning to glow. He didn't write a caption. He didn't need to. That picture said everything. It was quiet, peaceful, and full of feeling, just like Paul himself in that moment. Fans who saw the photo understood what it meant. It was his way of saying goodbye to his father, of honoring the man who had taught him to live with the sea. Paul didn't return to TV with loud words or big announcements. He simply went back to doing what he knew best. Even after all the pain, the mistakes, the public shame, and the personal loss, Paul Hebert remained a man of the ocean. He showed the world that even the strongest people can fall, but with love, courage, and quiet strength, they can rise again. His story isn't just about fishing or fame, it's about holding on when everything feels lost, and finding peace in the waves that once nearly drowned you. Paul Hebert has always been known for his big energy, loud voice, and love for fishing. But behind the scenes, his story is full of heartbreak, pain, and silence that fans rarely see on camera. One of the most powerful moments in his life was when he stood alone on the deck of his boat, surrounded by heavy fog, looking out into the quiet sea. He posted a photo of that moment with just 3 words: "Still fishing, Dad." That simple message broke the hearts of thousands of fans. It wasn't just a photo, it was a farewell to his father, Paul Hebert, a fellow fisherman, and someone who had been part of Paul's fishing journey for years. Paul and his dad were more than just a father and son. They were a team, a pair who shared stories, arguments, laughter, and long days at sea. Watching them together on Wicked Tuna gave the show something real and beautiful. When Donald died, it wasn't just Paul who lost someone. It felt like a piece of the old fishing world had gone with him. There was no big funeral, no big media event, no national tribute, but everyone who followed the show could feel it. Paul was not the same after that. He stopped smiling as much. He didn't shout or joke the way he used to. The sea stayed the same, but Paul changed. Over time, Paul became more quiet and distant. He still showed up to fish, he still did the work, but his joy seemed different. Before he used to shout, boom, after every big catch. Now he just nodded or said nothing. Fans noticed the change. They saw how losing his father took a part of his soul. Paul didn't talk much about the loss in public, but you could see it in the way he moved and talked on camera. There was a sadness that followed him. For someone who lived most of his life on the ocean, that wide open space now felt a little more empty. The bond between father and son isn't easy to explain. For Paul, it was more than love. It was trust, history, shared memories of fishing trips, hard weather, and proud moments. And when you lose someone like that, it's not just about missing them, it's about losing a part of who you are. Paul knew the ocean better than most people, but even the ocean couldn't comfort him after his dad passed away. Still, he kept fishing not just for money, not even just for the show, but because it was all he had left. The sea, the wind, the sound of the waves, they were the only things that hadn't walked away from him. For Paul, fishing wasn't just a job. It became his way of holding on. The Hebert family was always known for being strong fishermen. Paul grew up in that world, learning to respect the ocean, handle tough weather, and work long hours. But even strong people break when they face deep pain. Paul didn't show it openly, but everyone close to him could see it. After his dad died, he began talking less at public events. He stopped doing interviews as often. He didn't post much on social media anymore, and when he did, the posts felt colder. Just numbers and weights of fish, no smiles, no jokes, no signs of the fun-loving guy fans used to know. A lot of people didn't understand what was happening. Some thought maybe he was tired, others guessed he was just getting older. But those who truly followed his journey knew the truth. He was grieving, quietly, deeply, and without asking for pity. He didn't ask for help, he just went back to sea. Because when everything else fades, the sea is still there. That's what Paul held on to. But sadly, that was only the beginning of the pain he would have to face. After the deep loss of his father, Paul faced another tragedy, not a death in his family, but his own death, or at least a false rumor about it. In early 2022, fans of Wicked Tuna were shocked when an online article claimed that Paul Hebert had died of a heart attack while fishing off the coast of Massachusetts. The news came from a small fishing blog under the title Breaking Fishing Industry News. The article said Paul had passed away on January 15, 2022, but it had no source, no quote from his family, and no confirmation from the show. Despite that, the news spread like wildfire. Social media platforms were full of posts saying "Rip Paul Hebert." Fans wrote sad messages, made tribute videos, and even started sharing old clips of Paul as a way to honor his life. It only took a few hours for the fake news to reach thousands of people. But the pain for Paul wasn't just seeing the lie, it was knowing how quickly people believed it. A day later, the Wicked Tuna team posted an official message saying Paul was alive and well, and that he was filming new episodes for the upcoming season, but the damage was already done. Paul had to go online and personally tell people that he wasn't dead. In a short, sad video on Instagram, he said, "It's crazy to open your phone and see people think you're dead. I know I've done wrong, I've let people down. But no one deserves to be declared dead while they're still breathing." That message shook fans. They realized how hurtful the rumor had been. Paul wasn't just dealing with the pressure of public life or past legal issues. Now he had to face something much worse, being erased while still alive. People began to post apologies. One fan wrote, "Being killed by a rumor hurts more than being judged for mistakes." Another said, "We forget these people are real human beings." Paul's quiet video reminded everyone that pain isn't always about loss. Sometimes it's about being forgotten, misunderstood, or misrepresented. After the rumor, Paul shut down his personal Facebook and stayed offline for nearly a month. He only kept the business pages for his charter service. In a later post, he said, "I needed to shut everything off to hear my own heartbeat again." That one line said everything. The noise of the world had become too much. When he returned, his posts had changed. Before, he would sometimes share a little about his life or feelings. But now, it was only fish and numbers. "Caught a 500-pounder? Today," one post said. But there was no photo, no joke, no excitement, just cold facts. Fans noticed this change. Some said it felt like he was slowly disappearing into the sea. A longtime follower tweeted, "He used to be the heart of the show. Now it's like he's just floating through it." That year, Paul was invited to appear on a special Wicked Tuna episode to honor veteran captains. He refused. He said he wasn't ready to speak on camera about personal things. The producers respected his wishes and used older footage instead. Paul didn't confirm if he was going through depression, but the signs were there. Less talking, fewer smiles, no personal appearances. It was clear Paul was hurting in silence. For someone who once brought laughter to every episode, the silence felt heavy. and once again, the only place he turned to for peace was the sea. This kind of emotional pain is hard to explain. When someone dies, you mourn them. But when the world says you're dead, and you're still alive, it makes you feel invisible. Paul's reaction was to pull away. He didn't speak out in anger. He didn't attack the people who spread the lie. He just became more distant. The ocean became not just his job, but his hiding place. His old joyful spirit faded. His camera time felt shorter. He began doing the work like a machine. Cast the line, pull the reel, measure the fish, post the numbers. But the passion wasn't there. His crew noticed it. Fans noticed it. But Paul never explained. He didn't need to. His actions showed everything. He was still breathing, still fishing, but part of his soul had checked out. And after two major emotional blows, losing his father and nearly losing his own voice to a rumor, Paul just wanted peace. For Paul Hebert, that peace could only be found on the sea. By the year 2025, Paul Hebert is still sailing. At 60 years old, he remains the captain of the FV Wicked Tuna and continues to appear on both Wicked Tuna and Wicked Tuna Outer Banks. While other captains have left the show or retired, Paul is still there, quieter, older, but just as steady as the tide. He doesn't shout like he used to. He doesn't joke around as much, but he shows up every season. The official Wicked Tuna Facebook page confirmed that. Paul was part of season 14 in 2025. Even if he's not the loudest or flashiest anymore, he remains a core part of the show's heart. His net worth is believed to be around $400,000 to $500,000, not millions, but enough to live simply. He earns from the show, from tuna sales, and from his charter business, which he still runs during the summer months. But money doesn't seem to be his goal. In a quiet interview with Maritime Times, Paul said, "I don't think of myself as a TV star anymore. I'm just a man with a boat, still sailing, still waiting for fish. That's where I still feel alive." Paul's personal life remains a mystery. He is never married, he has no children. His family has slowly stepped away from public life. His brother Bruce still sails with him, but the others have moved on. Paul lives alone near the docks in Gloucester. In one rare comment on social media, Paul wrote, "I have the ocean, the boat, the wind, but no one waits for me at the harbor." That one sentence captured years of pain and loneliness. After the excitement of TV fame and years of public life, Paul now prefers the quiet. He doesn't go to fan meetups anymore. He avoids events and interviews. His live streams are gone. What remains are simple posts about fishing trips. No words, no feelings, just facts. But even in that silence, fans remain loyal. Under each post, they write messages like, "Still the best, Captain, we're proud of you, and stay strong, Paul." He may not say much, but the fans still care. They see what he's been through, and they still stand by him. Paul Hebert's story isn't about being perfect, it's about surviving. He's faced legal trouble, judgment, personal loss, and public misunderstanding, but he never gave up. He returned to the ocean, to his boat, and to the life he knows best. He never asked for awards, he never demanded attention. He just kept sailing. For Paul, the sea isn't just a job, it's his home, his comfort, and his final safe place. He may never be as loud as he once was, he may never laugh the same way again, but he's still here. Still fishing, still moving forward, one wave at a time. That's what makes him powerful. Not the fish he catches, but the strength he shows, just by showing up. His story is not about fame or fortune, it's about being human, flawed, hurt, but still standing. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Paul Hebert is a broken man or a true survivor? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with another powerful story from the sea.